Let's get started. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this candidate forum on diversity, equity, and inclusion, sponsored by the Hingham Unity Council, or HUC. This evening, we will feature a Q&A forum with candidates for the planning board, and then invite statements from candidates running unopposed across several different town committees and commissions, including the School Committee, Sewer Commission, Recreation Commission, Board of Health, Municipal Light Board, Select Board, Board of Assessors, and Town Moderator. We are fortunate to have several candidates in person here tonight. One note before we begin, I'd like to disclose that Michelle Ayer is an HUC board member, and given her role as a candidate for school committee, we want to note that Michelle recused herself from the planning of tonight's forum. With that, let me introduce myself. My name is Andrew Turner. My wife Jody and I live in Hingham with our two wonderful kids, Jack and Dylan, and our rascally but sweet dog, Molly. I am a member of the Hingham Unity Council, and I'm honored to be able to moderate this event. Before we get started, I would like to provide you with some background on our group. Hingham Unity Council is a nonpartisan, nonprofit group formed to facilitate open, respectful, in-person dialogue about systemic issues that affect human dignity with the goal of creating a more inclusive and welcoming community. We are part of the South Shore Unity Council. We always welcome new members, so please visit our website at hinghamunity.org for upcoming events and more information on ways to get involved. Before we get started tonight, I'd also like to encourage people to attend 3 upcoming events. The first event is presented by Hingham Metco in collaboration with HUC and the Hingham Historical Society. On Saturday, May 6th, from 1 to 3 p.m., there will be a downtown Hingham Metco family scavenger hunt. All Hingham students and their families are welcome to join and get to know our wonderful Metco families. We will gather in the parking lot at St. John's Episcopal Church, located at 172 Main Street, for a 1 p.m. start to the hunt, which has been prepared by interns at the Hingham Historical Society. The event will conclude with free lunch by Morel's Barbecue back at the church at 2:30 p.m. Please bring a reusable water bottle to take advantage of the hydration stations. We hope to see you there. This event is free, but registration at hinghamunity.org is required by April 20th. Secondly, on Thursday, May 18th at 7 p.m., the HUC Community Book Read and Discussion will focus on Celeste Ng's book, Our Broken Hearts, and we will be convening in person at the Witten Room at the Hingham Public Library, located at 66 Levitt Street. This event is free and open to all, and registration is open on the HUC website right now. Lastly, please save the date for our 3rd annual Juneteenth celebration on Monday, June 19th. Join us at the bandstand at the Hingham Harbor to celebrate Freedom Day with free family fun for all. We will have live music, a kids' bounce house, and other kids' activities, delicious food, and more. Stay tuned for more details soon. We welcome our friends from neighboring communities to join us in this celebration, so please feel free to spread the word. Okay, let's get started. As I mentioned, we have one competitive race this season for the planning board, and several candidates will be running unopposed for the other positions. The candidates for all contests have been fully apprised of the format and ground rules. For the benefit of our audience, though, I will give a quick overview. For the candidates for planning board, each candidate will briefly introduce themselves for up to 2 minutes in ballot order. I will then ask them questions. Candidates will have up to 2 minutes to answer each question. Rebuttals for individual questions will not be allowed. At the end of the Q&A session, I will invite each candidate to make a closing statement in reverse ballot order for up to 2 minutes. I will keep track of time, but ask the candidates to please do your best to finish on time. If needed, please forgive me in advance. I will interrupt and ask the candidates to do their best to finish promptly. For the candidates that are running unopposed, I will invite each candidate to make a statement for up to 2 minutes. To prepare them, we provided candidates with this prompt. One of the goals of the Hingham Unity Council is to create a more inclusive and welcoming community. Can you please tell voters how you will use your public position to make Hingham more welcoming for all of its citizens? For the candidates that are present, I will invite them onto the screen to read their statements themselves. For those that are not present but have submitted a statement, I will read it for them. With those logistics out of the way, let's get started. Our Q&A forum is for the planning board, and I'd like to welcome Tom and Tracy onto the screen.
Good evening.
Good evening. Hey, Tom. Hey, Tracy. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Great. I will. We'll start with opening statements for each of you. As I mentioned, we'll proceed in ballot order. The ballot order starts with Tom. Was published, I think, today. So please remember to unmute yourself. Tom, you're unmuted. I can hear you. And whenever you're ready, you may begin your opening statement.
Great. Good evening, everyone. I'm Tom Patch. I'm a candidate for Planning Board. Thank you for tuning in. This is where I get to tell you a little bit about myself and why I'm running. For purposes of DEI, I think you want to know who I am as a person. I'm fortunate to say that I have very deep roots in Hingham. I'm a fourth generation born and raised Hinghamite. My educational background is Hingham Public Schools K through 12. I have a bachelor's degree in economics and political science. I graduated law school. My work experience is I'm a practicing attorney, member of the Massachusetts Bar. After law school, I went to work for Fleet Financial Group in its mortgage division. I then worked for a regional law firm where my practice focus was municipal law and land use law. This included providing town council services, to the town of Kingston, Massachusetts. After that, I worked as a general counsel for a multi-state real estate development construction company, managing partner for a different law firm, and have transitioned into my own practice. Over the course of time, I've interacted with many planning boards, including Hingham Planning Board, and I've concluded that there are 6 key attributes to a highly effective planning board member. And those are expertise, perspective, ingenuity, critical thinking, collaboration, and most important is care for the community. I believe I possess these attributes. I can step right in and do the job. And I believe these attributes, in looking at DEI, for example, critical thinking is essential. So in the tradition of Hingham volunteerism, I'm stepping forward to offer my time and abilities to the community of Hingham to serve as its next planning board member. That said, I respectfully ask for your vote at the town election on April 29th and look forward to answering your questions.
Excellent, Tom, and right on time. Thank you very much. Tracy, I'd invite you on to make a statement. Whenever you're ready, please unmute,
Sure.
and you have minutes.
All right, thank you. My name is Tracy Shriver, and I'm running for Planning Board. My wife and I moved to Hingham in 2017 when we found out we were having our first child. We chose Hingham for many reasons, some of which were the great public school system, and our oldest is currently enrolled in kindergarten at East Elementary, public access to the water and the open space, and multiple connections to the neighboring communities, including the commuter rail and the ferry service. Finding an amazing community to call home, I quickly realized I wanted to get involved in the town to help strengthen and enrich all the characteristics of Hingham that drew our family here. I earned a master's degree in architecture and was only a few credits shy from earning a certificate in urban design and planning. The reason for being short was I decided to participate in a design build program in Havana, Cuba, where we repurposed an existing agricultural structure into a social club for the local farming community, in Jutepec, Mexico, where we built a children's library. So being a few credits short is a decision I don't regret. I'm a registered architect and I've been licensed in Massachusetts since 2002. Since 2012, I've been working at Elkes Manfredi Architects as a senior project manager. While at EMA, I've worked on some amazing projects with great teams in Boston, revitalizing historic structures, including the telephone building in Post Office Square, the Innovation and Design building in the Seaport, and for the past 5 years and counting on the Landmark Center in the Fenway. Upon moving to Hingham, I was contacted by the American Institute of Architects about an opening on the Historic District Commission. I joined that commission in 2019 and became the chair 2 years ago. I was also a member of the Accessory Dwelling Unit Study Committee that presented a proposed zoning amendment to the Planning Board. It was that experience that led me to pursue additional opportunities with the Planning Board. After several meetings and conversations with members in the community, I decided to run for the Planning Board in the upcoming election. The Planning Board has a large responsibility to every member of the community. This position requires a lot of work and dedication. I believe my professional skills, including teamwork, team building, and not just listening, but hearing people, as well as my professional experience, that I would be a positive addition to the board and respectfully request your vote on April 29th. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. Thank you both, Tom and Tracy. We'll now begin with the formal Q&A. We'll go back and forth and we'll just rotate. So Tom, Tracy, I'd welcome you back on the screen. And what we'll do is we'll just flip-flop. I have 5 questions total. We'll start with Tracy. I'll read the question, give you 2 minutes for a response. If needed, I'm happy to reread it for either of you, no problem. And we will kind of just proceed that way through the first 5, and then we'll go to closing statements. Sound good?
Can I ask a quick question first? How
Sure.
many people are here? I only see you and or Tom on the screen.
Well, we're live streaming it. So this is basically like, think of it like a TV show. So you and I
Okay.
are the TV, and then we're live streaming it on our Facebook page. We're live streaming, and I think on YouTube as well. And
Okay.
the recording itself will be available. So you can consider it just a discussion with you and me for now.
No problem. Go ahead.
Okay, so the first question topic area is ADUs, or accessory dwelling units. In 2021, annual town meeting created the Accessory Dwelling Unit, or ADU, Study Committee to assess the merits of amending the provisions of the zoning bylaw to allow detached ADUs, or to amend any other provision of the zoning bylaw reasonably related to the creation of ADUs. 7 citizen volunteers spent over 12 months researching, taking community comments, and discussing the various considerations before releasing a proposal. Over the course of several meetings from January through March of this year, the planning board debated an important issue related to ADUs, the so-called, quote, familial restriction. Currently, ADUs are allowed only to be occupied by family members, and the ADU study committee recommended lifting that restriction to make them available to anybody. The planning board rejected that recommendation, and it will not be included in the article in the warrant for town meeting on April 24th. So my question, Tracy, for you is, are you in favor of lifting the familial restriction on ADUs? If so, why? And if not, why not?
All right. Well, I was one of those 7 citizens that was on that study committee, as I mentioned, and it's public record that I was for removing the familial restriction. I think that knowing all of the other zoning amendments and requirements that were in there, in all honesty, I think that we were going to see, with or without the familial restriction, a handful of additional ADUs in the coming 5, 6, 8 years. It is very restrictive. It is expensive. It's not for everybody. Some seniors, may feel uncomfortable having non-familial in their backyard, but it wasn't a requirement. It was just one tool in the toolbox. So I didn't understand the reasoning for restricting it for those who it may help. It may help someone age in place. It may help someone care for a disabled or an elderly friend or member of the community. So I've been very clear that I was open to removing that familial requirement. And additionally, I think it's very difficult in 2023 to even define familial, right? If I had a best friend who has a college age student who's doing a year internship in Boston, and they live, in Albuquerque, but I've known this kid since they were born, and I've gone on family vacations with them and everything else, they wouldn't be allowed in my ADU. But if I had a second cousin who lived on the West Coast who I've never met, they could. Like, I didn't understand where you were going to draw that line.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Tracy. I'll invite Tom, for you, same question regarding ADUs. Are you in favor of lifting the familial restriction on ADUs? And if so, why? If not, why not?
Well, right now I'm not. And the reason is a lot of people lose sight of a couple of things here. Is, first of all, while the study committee did come out and recommend ADUs and outbuildings that could be just used for rentals, because that's what the familial restriction is an impediment to have happen. The master plan study committee and the master plan adopted by the planning board in 2021 rejected the idea of the outbuilding ADUs that could be used straight for rental. So obviously there's a difference of opinion in the town, and you see that you saw that essentially on the advisory committee. You've seen that with the planning board. The thing people have to understand with zoning is, once you enact zoning, rights vest, and if it turns out it's somehow mistaken, there's very little you can do to roll it back. So you have to approach it in a measured way. And historically, we've done this in Hingham. This is what has made Hingham the place that everybody wants to come and live. We don't just jump into something that because it seems like a good idea, which it may well be, but we take a careful, measured approach because we understand that once you allow this, it's very hard to roll back. The impacts continue to exist. And the point I want to make is that, in 2018, we did a huge jump to go to ADUs itself. And then, here we are less than 5 years later going ADUs to an outbuilding. So it's entirely possible after a couple of years that we could be having this discussion where ADUs in outbuildings without the familiar restriction could exist. And then one other point I do want to make is people do also lose sight of is in our bylaw, we actually have a provision that's been around since the bylaw was created in 1941, which is if you own a single family with that same A1 special permit for an ADU, you can take an existing single family house as long as it has 6 rooms and you can convert it into a 2-family, no familiar restriction, no owner occupancy restriction. There's approximately 6,000 single family houses, I believe, from the assessor in this town. So, there's ample opportunity for this to occur. This compelling argument, aging in place of familial condition. So that's where we're going with it for now.
Thanks, Tom. Let's leave it there. Being mindful of time. Thank you very much. Let's stay on camera though. We'll flip flop back to you for the next question.
Yep.
This one has to do with the master plan that you mentioned. So the Hingham Master Plan was adopted by the Planning Board on August 23rd, 2021, and included an overarching goal to, and I'll quote from the plan, provide a variety of housing to encourage population diversity and aging in the community, unquote.
Right.
Among the policy recommendations was one to identify opportunities for small-scale developments and other types of missing middle housing, where the plan defines missing middle as duplexes and small-scale multi-unit dwellings along busy streets near the business districts, making a gradual transition between activity areas and neighborhoods. So my question for starting with you and then to Tracy is, how would you assess the Planning Board's performance in identifying opportunities for this type of development?
Well, the part of the problem, and that I actually think I'm going to be very helpful with, if I'm fortunate enough to be elected to the Planning Board, is I'm a very results-oriented person, and the Planning Board, to a certain extent, it's one of those boards they put in a ton of work. So this is not, I'm not trying to throw shade at them, but they're relying on staff, and we have just a couple of staff people, and they have tremendous amounts of things put onto them. And I really know the town, and I know where the opportunities lie. I think that the problem is we have a town that's highly developed, and the opportunities. I just pointed out an opportunity. We have approximately 6,000 single-family houses. Maybe we need to socialize that issue more with people to make them realize that, hey, with an A1 special permit, you can take your single-family house, six rooms, which most houses do, and even if not, you can just add 2 rooms, and turn that into a 2-family. So there's the opportunity. Maybe we need to socialize that issue more with people so they understand what their rights are. One of the other issues is it's towards a developable land. We have a real problem because unlike towns like Lexington, which are on MWRA water and sewer, we're not. So basically, we have our own aquifer. We have to pay attention to environmental issues. Very limited part of the town is on sewer, and that's the most highly developed, dense part of the town. So these are the conflicting issues when you speak to trying to identify opportunities.
Great. Thank you, Tom. Tracy, let's go to you next. Same question regarding missing middle housing. How would you assess the Planning Board's performance in identifying opportunities for this type of development in Hingham?
Quoting Tom, I don't want to throw shade at the Planning Board, but I do think that it's an area that can be improved. And I think one of the recent changes with site review is this, there's currently a 5,000 square foot. If you're impacting 5,000 square feet of the lot, you have to go through planning review. And that's taken a lot of the time of the planning board members. But one benefit of that is it's allowing a lot more interaction with abutters and neighbors to understand what's going on in their neighborhoods and with in their neighborhoods and their neighbors. I think that there's a lot of opportunities, especially as you drive down 3A and avenues like that, where we're not utilizing the best use for a lot of those lots. And I think that some of that can and should be studied for those areas for potentially opportunities for some of this mid-level housing that you're looking for, or mid-size housing that we're looking for. And I think if you were to ask current members of the planning board, they would admit they need more time to actually start implementing this master plan and start doing the actual planning. And I think that's on every existing member's agenda, and it would be on mine as well.
Great. Thank you, Tracy. Why don't you stay on for the next one here? This one is about affordable housing. The Hingham Master Plan also charges the planning board with adopting, quote, an inclusionary housing bylaw that requires affordable units in all new residential or mixed-use developments over a certain size, or requires a comparable financial contribution to the Hingham Affordable Housing Trust to produce the necessary units elsewhere in town. So my question for you, starting with you, is, are you satisfied with the amount of affordable housing options in Hingham? Why or why not? And if not, what would you do to expand those affordable housing options?
Saw a red bar next to my name. I thought I was on mute. The 40B exists for a reason. It's because a lot of communities aren't meeting the requirements of affordable housing. So I think that there's definitely work to be done in that regard. There's a lot of other communities that set up, that kind of have that requirement to either mandate it's included in multifamily housing or make the developer pay into a fund. A lot of the developers end up opting to pay into the fund, which is useful in other regards. People hear affordable housing and they hear 40B, and there's a lot of times a knee-jerk reaction. We live in a very wealthy town. Affordable housing for a family of four, you can have an income up to, I think, about $112,000 here in Hingham, which is, a lot of people in Hingham make more than that, but that's not a small number. Now, that's the 80% number. That's not the 50% or the 30%. That's the 80% number. But I don't think I don't agree with kind of that knee-jerk reaction. I think that there are ways to be very creative and create inclusive opportunities for mixed levels of housing.
Excellent. Thank you, Tracy. Let's bring Tom on for this question. I'll just repeat it for the benefit of your audience. Are you satisfied with the amount of affordable housing options in Hingham? Why or why not? And if not, what would you do to expand those affordable housing options?
Well, I think a lot of people don't realize we actually do have somewhat of an inclusionary provision in our zoning bylaw, and it's called a flexible residential development. And this is where you get like a bonus in terms of housing, of single family houses, or you can do it as a condo. But then in the bonus, a certain number of them have to be affordable. So we've gone that route. The problem I find with it is that you have to, and this is the problem I find, quite honestly, with our zoning bylaw as a whole, is that even in the mixed use district, which is essentially the shipyard, they require a huge amount of land to start off with just to be able to do this in the first place. So with FRDs, you can't even begin to discuss FRDs until you have at least 3 acres. And then if you want to have bonus units, you have to have 5 acres. Well, you look around town, and quite honestly, those opportunities really don't exist. So so we've already broken the bubble, so to speak, or whatever you want to call it, as far as trying to do something that's inclusionary. So let's make this work. I grew up in a family of 6, and we have 4 boys living in 1 bedroom. And, I worked a paper boy from 4 years old, painted houses, put myself through college, put myself through law school. I've worked hard, and I know people. This town, when I grew up, it wasn't the town you see today. The income levels you see in this town today are off the chart. It's something that didn't exist before. And what's happened is, unfortunately, we're a victim of our own success. We've made a great community, and now under our zoning that's designed to try to help people stay on their existing houses, is this thing called the Hatfield Amendment, where you can add on to your house. The problem is this has taken a lot of that starter housing, Bradley Park, et cetera, and the result is people come in, knock them down, build something that's way above the starter housing. So, we're losing this, and we once had it. And this, I think, trying to do some kind of inclusionary zoning more aggressively we'll be able to claw some of that back.
Great. Thank you, Tom. Why don't I have you stay on for this next question?
Yep.
Got 2 left. We're on number 4. It's about decision-making processes that both you and Tracy would follow in decision-making. So oftentimes, the planning board is asked to mediate disagreements between neighbors about new development. I think we were talking about this before. As an example, during the February 6th planning board meeting, the board heard from neighbors on South Pleasant Street, where a new owner would like to reconstruct a single-family dwelling that includes an attached 2-car garage and also construct a detached accessory building with single garage bay and office, a pool house, a sports court, an auto court, and make additional hardscaping, landscaping, and other improvements. Among other things, the neighbors were concerned about the noise and light emanating from the sports court. So, what decision-making criteria would you use when evaluating these disputes? And what sorts of questions would you ask of the developer or of the neighbors?
Boy, that's a tough. No good deed goes unpunished, right? The part of the problem is the board can really only do so much. So basically, right now, what's happening with that individual is site plan review, and we didn't have site plan review like this before. But as a result of houses being built like this, and we realized neighbors were being impacted. And the basic reason is that the way our zoning bylaw is structured, normally when you would try to do something like this, you would have to go in for a finding that is not more substantially detrimental to the neighborhood that's there. But like I said, we changed the zoning back in the 80s in this town to make it more acceptable, so people could put a little addition on their house to stay there rather than having to move out of the neighborhood. And this is the law of unintended consequences. So basically, site plan review isn't, technically the job isn't of the planning board to act as a mediator. Honestly, I think what you have to do is be the voice of reason. That's, I think, and educate people and make them understand what their relative rights are. And so, in that situation, we don't have a FAR, which is a floor area ratios, which other towns do, which limits the size of these things. There's so many things that are on the plate. I think the master plan is thought about, perhaps having an FAR. Even the study committee for ADUs, we're talking about FAR potential down the road. So again, my attitude is, you try to be the voice of reason. Site plan review, you're looking for impacts on the neighbors. People have rights on their property. You try to mitigate in a reasoned way. Talk to people as adults, and hopefully nobody's going to go away 100% happy. But you try to show them hands above the table, and you did the best you can, and that's what develops a sense of community.
Great, thank you, Tom.
Yep.
Tracy, I'll ask you the same question. What decision-making criteria would you use when evaluating these disputes or these issues, I should say? What sorts of questions would you ask of the developer or of the neighbors?
So I do agree with Tom on a lot of the things that he said. The planning board only has so much leeway we're looking at it, they're looking at it from a zoning perspective. And a lot of times they don't have, an authority to say no. But with this site review that I mentioned earlier, and Tom just mentioned, of the 5,000 square foot, disturbance of the land, you actually are getting a lot more input from the neighbors and the impacted community. I think one of the really great things about Hingham is its kind of grain. There's almost, there's 1,000 or so historic houses, 700 protected. We have this fine grain, and that's what draws a lot of people here, is that community feel. And a lot of people want to hold on to that. I think most people want to hold on to that. So every now and then you get one of these, really large houses, or whatever you want to call it, estates, and it gets people worked up. One thing that Hingham doesn't have is a plan review and board that other, jurisdictions do have. And I think that's something that's come up in the past. I think it's something that maybe should be looked at. But, again, you're looking, I've heard some of that conversation, and, the owner's crying, this is really expensive. I'm hiring civil engineers and architects and everything else, but yet they're building a 5, 8, $10 million house, whatever the cost is. So kind of, in some ways, it lands a little bit on deaf ears, but, you see their side of it as well. They're looking to move into a great community as well, but we have to protect it for everybody, not just the few.
Great. Thank you, Tracy.
I think I'm still on.
I'll have you stay on for the last question, and then we'll go to closing statements. So, well, we'll let Tom answer, of course, and then we'll go. So, among the duties of the planning board is to conduct studies, and when necessary, prepare plans of the resources, possibilities, and needs of the city or town for submittal to the select board for their consideration. So, if elected to the planning board, what studies would you recommend Hingham undertake? And how would you ensure those studies incorporated issues of racial equity and/or social justice as part of them?
I do think one of the studies should be the infrastructure. The water, the sewer and the wastewater are issues everywhere, including not just residential, but also commercial. I also think traffic is a big issue. There's been a lot of, problems that have been building even before the pandemic, but have kind of been exacerbated by the pandemic. People are a lot more reliant on their cars. You look at the empty parking lots at the commuter rail and the ferry station compared to where they were in 2020, and everyone's in their car. And it's really impacting everybody. And, some of those lower, more affordable houses are on those busier streets, and they're being impacted by that increased traffic. We used to have rush hour. Now rush hour is like from 8 straight through 6 o'clock at night, because everyone's driving around everywhere getting their curbside pickup. So, those are a couple of the studies I think that should be looked at. And, housing, as we've talked about on a few of the previous questions, I think, looking for additional opportunities to maintain that nice grain that we have, and, develop some of these things that everyone in the community is going to enjoy.
Great. Thank you, Tracy. Tom, same question to you. Last question for the Q&A portion. If elected to the planning board, what studies would you recommend Hingham undertake? And how would you ensure those studies incorporated issues of racial equity and/or social justice as part of them?
Okay. So like I said, I tend to tilt towards action. I want to see things get done. And one of the issues I kind of have with studies, I understand you need to look at something, but one of the things I have a problem with is when you're just having studies for the sake of having a study. You want to get results because we're talking about people's lives on a day-to-day basis. So one of the things I would do is one of the first things I would want to do is I would want to have a study of our zoning bylaw and regulations of the ZBA. I want to have a study of our own planning board regulations. And I want to look at these and I want to say, you know, how are we, you know, looking at this? Are we, you know, not intentionally, but are we somehow sending a message to people, don't come here, don't come and live here, don't be part of our community? Because I can't understand for the life of me. You have a nice little town like Randolph, a couple of towns over, which is much more diverse than Hingham. And I've looked at their zoning, and I looked at our zoning, and I scratch my head, and I keep saying to myself, what are we doing wrong here? And I think what you have to do is, I think one of the things, you know, I think there's perceptions out there. I think one of the ways you can send a message, and you can also get results by examining the, you know, the process and the rules of the game, and try to figure out if these are creating some impediments. And then the other study is, I think we need to have a very serious acceptance of the fact of where I think we need to educate people about the way the town used to be and how it was full of starter homes and mid homes, Bradley Woods, you know, this type of thing, small lots. It's not going to be the end of the world, people. Okay, these are nice little areas of town now, and so we need, you know, let's get that back. Let's do some studies and say, hey, you know, we can actually do this. Let's do the study and try to decide whether, you know, one of the problems we have with MW in this town, the big impediment to development is septic systems, or what do you do with our sanitary waste? Well, the biggest problem we have there is mostly South Hingham. That's where our aquifer is. So we have huge lots. If we're going to go to the MWA sewage for the whole town, the problem is that's what MWA wants. They don't want us to do it this piecemeal. So let's have a study. Let's decide if we want to bite the bullet and go that way, and then think about, okay, how are we going to leverage that into getting, you know, more diversity in the town, more equity, more affordable housing. You know,
Great.
let's do something.
Thank you, Tom.
Yeah.
Excellent. So that concludes our portion of the Q&A. So thank you for both of the candidates. I very much appreciate your willingness to participate tonight. We'll now provide the opportunity for each of you to make a closing statement. And Tom went first the first time, and so we'll go in reverse ballot order this time. Tracy, I'll welcome you to make a closing statement. This is it. For up to 2 minutes. Go ahead whenever you're ready.
Well, again, thank you for inviting us and hosting this event. Thank Tom. I think he brings a lot of knowledge and history to the discussion, so I appreciate him participating as well. I think it's a role of the planning board to help preserve the character of the town while promoting responsible growth. You know, I listed a handful of the reasons that why I moved here to start my family. I intend to stay here until I retire or pass, or, you know, and I'm hoping that, you know, my kids are second generation Hinghamites. I think there's a lot of work for the planning board to do, and I'm ready to get in and do the work and create, you know, great teams and get to know more people in the community. I've gotten some nice exposure with my experience on the Historic Commission and on the ADU Study Committee. And sometimes, you know, I've come across someone with some of my views that I thought they were, you know, might be negative towards me. And in this process, I've found a lot of excitement in that. Even though we have a difference of opinion, they're respectful and they're friendly, and it's nice, and it's great to live in a town like that. So again, there's a lot of reasons I'm running. I hope I explained some of them here tonight in this short period of time. And again, I respectfully ask for your vote on April 29th. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tracy. Tom, we'll welcome you back on for a closing statement whenever you're ready.
Sure. In closing, I too thank the Unity Council for this forum. These are always a good thing. You get to see and hear people that are going to be your elected representatives. So that's important. And everybody that tuned in, again, thanks. Thanks, Tracy. But for you and I, this would be a very boring election season, although we do have the override to draw people to the town election. So the focus point, I think, tonight has tried to be, we're trying to deal with the issue of DEI in terms of what the role of planning board member is. And, I don't profess to be an expert in DEI. I grew up in the beginning of the civil rights era in town. One thing I'm very proud about the town of Hingham is they drilled this into us. They essentially drilled this into us about, basically treating everybody fairly. Martin Luther King, Hingham has a history of abolitionist movement. It's something the town's very proud of, and it's part of our town character. I believe DEI needs action. Like I said, I'm a person of action. I believe I've demonstrated that I possess the attributes needed to implement sound policy going forward. Particularly, your concerns about DEI. You'll have a welcoming, open mind on this, and I really think going forward, there's a lot of good things that can come out of this. So I thank you, and I respectfully ask for your vote at the town election on April 29th. Thanks.
Fantastic. Thank you, Tom. And thank you, Tracy. Let me just say a big thank you to both of the candidates, Tom and Tracy, for your willingness to participate in our forum. I will echo what Tom said, is that it is great for voters to be able to hear from you directly. And I very much am grateful for you for participating tonight. We wish both of you the best of luck in the election, and also wanted to thank our live stream audiences for tuning in. Hopefully they'll stay. There's more to come. A recording of this forum will be available on the Hingham Unity Council website, Facebook page and YouTube pages, and also on our website. A quick PSA, the election is Saturday, April 29th, and the deadline to register to vote for this election is Friday, April 14th, so about 8 days from now. There are 3 options to vote in this election. One is vote by mail. Applications are available on the town clerk website and must be downloaded, completed, signed, and returned to the town clerk's office by Monday, April 24th, although the clerk recommends submitting them in advance. In-person voting is the second thing you can do, of course, on Saturday, April 29th. Please note that in-person early voting is not available, so you need to be there on Saturday. And the third option is absentee voting. Please call the town clerk's office at 781-741-1410 to schedule an appointment to absentee vote. Thank you again for joining us, and remember to vote on April 29th. And please also visit the Hingham Unity Council website at hinghamunity.org for more upcoming events, including the Downtown Hingham Metco Family Scavenger Hunt on Saturday, May 6th from 1 to 3, our community book read with Celeste Ng's Our Broken Hearts on Thursday, May 18th at 7 p.m. at the Witten Room at the Hingham Public Library, and our 3rd annual Juneteenth celebration on Monday, June 19th. Okay, so we will now begin the statements for candidates running unopposed. And for those just joining us, as a reminder, each candidate will be given up to 2 minutes to read a statement addressing the following prompt. One of the goals of the Hingham Unity Council is to create a more inclusive and welcoming community. Can you please tell voters how you will use your public position to make Hingham more welcoming for all of its citizens? For the candidates that are present, I will invite them onto the screen to read their statements themselves. A few of them are here tonight. Thank you. For those that are not present but have submitted a statement, I'm happy to read it for them. Where necessary, we will proceed in ballot order. That's not necessary in too many things here. And we're going to actually start with the school committee. So I will invite Michelle Ayer and Jen Benham. They are 2 candidates. We'll start with Michelle. Can come on screen. There she is. Hi, Michelle.
Hello, how are you?
And, I'm well. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Whenever you're ready, please unmute and begin.
All right, can you hear me? Uh-oh. I'm hoping you can hear me.
Yeah.
I'm unmuted. Okay, good. Thank you. Well, thanks again for having us. When I was elected to the school committee in 2017, I thought it was just a way to give back to our schools. I've since learned, though, that we do have an obligation to use these positions to do the right thing, which is what I try to do when I find things aren't quite right. I have a good example. A few years ago, there was a request made to fly the pride flag at Town Hall during Pride Month. After a public discussion, the select board denied the request because there was a policy in place that restricted which flags could be displayed at Town Hall. I fully understood the rationale. Policies are policies and they're there for a reason, but I was still frustrated. And when the meeting ended, I started drafting a strongly worded letter to voice my disappointment. But literally, as I was about to hit send, I thought, wait a second, the schools have flagpoles and we have policies to support LGBT students. I should just ask the school committee to vote to fly pride flags at each of our 6 schools across the town. And that's what we did. So now each June, the schools look forward to raising the pride flag, not only because of the celebration of our LGBTQ students and staff, but also because it represents empathy and kindness and tolerance. And it's a really strong, tangible reminder that we are striving to be a welcoming, accepting community. We definitely still have work to be done on that front. And I would appreciate one of your 2 votes for school committee so that I can continue trying to make Hingham a better community for anyone who lives here, works here, or even travels through here. So I would appreciate your vote on April 29th.
Fantastic. Thank you, Michelle, very much. I welcome Jen on screen now to read her statement.
Great, thanks. You can hear me out okay?
Yep, we can hear you.
Good evening. My name is Jen Benham, and I'm a candidate for re-election for school committee. I believe we all share an obligation to ensure Hingham is a community where all are welcome and accepted. But I also understand that as an elected official, I have a responsibility to use my position as a community leader to model inclusive behavior and to implement policies that affirm inclusiveness. And I've never shied away from that. As part of my work on the school committee, I serve as chair of the policy subcommittee to review, draft, and propose policy changes. And I have always come at that work with an equity lens to ensure that all our policies are aligned to meet the very varied needs of all our students, regardless of gender, socioeconomic status, academic ability, race, or religion. It's not easy work. Policies are often discussed for weeks, months, with input from various stakeholders. Some can be controversial, but I've always held firm in my belief that any policy must ensure students are welcomed, nurtured, and protected. I'm proud of the work I've done as policy subcommittee chair because the policies are the bedrock of the district. They are the roadmap for our staff to follow to create an equitable environment for students so they can grow and flourish into empathetic, caring, and thoughtful global citizens. I hope you'll vote to re-elect me and give me one of your 2 votes so that I can continue serving our students in our community for the next 3 years. And thank you to the Hingham Unity Council for holding this forum tonight. I appreciate having this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Jen. And thank you to Michelle as well. Those are the 2 candidates for school committee. And thank you very much for being here this evening. We're going to move on now to a series of statements that I think I will probably need to read. The candidate for sewer commission is James Byrne, and I don't believe James is able to be here. He had a last-minute conflict with a community event. I do have a statement, though, as a backup, and I'd be happy to read that. For all of these statements, please imagine that I am the candidate, and I am reading on their behalf. So this is from James, candidate for sewer commission. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here, and thank you to the Hingham Unity Council for having me today and for all that you do for our community. My name is James Byrne, and I am running for Hingham Sewer Commission. While I'm not originally from Hingham, my wife and I made Hingham home a few years ago and have since settled in the shipyard, got married last October at St. Paul, and actually watched all of our nieces and nephews get baptized at St. Paul or Resurrection Parish. I currently serve on the Energy Action Committee and am an active volunteer in fundraising for Hingham Nursery School. During the day, I serve as an assistant district attorney in Suffolk County, where I am assigned to the South Boston Division of the Boston Municipal Court. Prior to that, I served as legal counsel to the Committee on Public Safety and Homeland Security for the Massachusetts House of Representatives. Additionally, I am currently pursuing a master's in global public policy from Suffolk University, and I went to Suffolk Law at night while I was working as a paralegal for the DA. I am running for Sewer Commission for 2 reasons. First, I would like to further the volunteer work I do on behalf of the town. Second, I would like to work with Dr. Schultz and Mr. Fraser to reduce costs to ratepayers in Hingham. Regarding that first point, I am a career public servant. I grew up in the Washington, D.C. area in a family that emphasized the importance of service and community. Not only do I plan to remain a public servant for my entire career as a prosecutor, but I am also very excited for the opportunity to serve Hingham as a member of the Sewer Commission. Regarding that second point, I think to do this, the Sewer Commission should play the long game and establish a 25-year plan to address necessary investments to ensure that our sewer system is efficient and resilient. Thank you very much for your time and consideration. So thank you, James. That was James' statement. As a reminder, he is a candidate for Sewer Commission. As a reminder for our audience, the prompt we provided to candidates is as follows. One of the goals of the Hingham Unity Council is to create a more inclusive and welcoming community. Can you please tell voters how you will use your public position to make Hingham more welcoming for all of its citizens? Next up, we have 2 candidates for Recreation Commission, Vicki Donlin and Matt LeBreton. Neither is able to join us tonight, so I will be reading statements from both of them. The first is from Vicki. My name is Vicki Donlin, and I have lived in Hingham with my husband, Fran, for 50 years. I am running for a 3rd term on the Recreation Commission. The last 10 years have been successful, but I have goals I still want to accomplish in the next 5 years. The Recreation Commission is proud to offer a multitude of programs for all ages and abilities. The goal of the department is to provide recreation at an affordable price. Our annual July 4th road race, now in its 64th year, is a fundraiser which assures that those campers in need have scholarships available. The Recreation Department is committed to providing inclusive and welcoming programs. Our summer camp program has a variety of offerings for ages 3 through 13. Children age 14 through 15 can become CITs, counselors in training, and those age 16 plus can apply to be paid counselors. Of course, summer isn't the only time the Rec offers programs. Our dance program, Funky Feet, offered to kids 2+ years old, runs through the school year, as do many other programs. Kids are not the Rec's only customers. Men's Harbor Hoops, offered to men 60+, brings older men back into the basketball gym for exercise and competition. And yoga, offered to both men and women, runs throughout the year and is provided with a hybrid option via Zoom for those unable to attend in person. For the first time this year, the Rec is offering Harbor Girls Sports to fill the gap of a sports program where all girls can feel welcome and included. There's a long list of offerings for all age groups available online at hinghamrec.com. I'm looking forward to another 5-year term with the Recreation Commission, and although I am running unopposed, I would love to receive your vote as a show of confidence for the job we are doing. Thank you, Vicki Donlin. That's from Vicki. The other candidate is Matt LeBreton, and I have a statement from Matt that I'll read. I fully support the vision of the HUC as it relates to continuing to work to embrace programs, policies, procedures, and actions that reinforce that Hingham is and should be a welcoming community to all of our residents and guests. The Recreation Commission is charged with offering and supporting offerings that benefit our community, young and old, accessible to all. As an appointee to the commission, I have seen the good work of my fellow commissioners, as well as the staff, to work towards that end. I pledge to continue to work with the entire team to uphold the values of community and access without discrimination for our citizens and our guests. The Recreation Commission, and I as a commissioner, recognize the need for continued vigilance in and around our community to discharge our duties in a way that celebrates our diversity while providing outstanding services and active spaces to all. I look forward to working with HUC, its members, and our neighbors to continue to do the things we do well and improve upon areas where we can do better. Thank you for the opportunity to provide this statement, and continued best wishes on all the good work you do. So that's from Matt. We have a few more. Hopefully you're not getting tired of me, but I'm grateful that the candidates submitted these statements. Lizzie Eldridge is running unopposed for the Board of Health and is tied up, I believe, in the OR this evening. So I have a statement that I'll read from her. Good evening to the members of the Hingham Unity Council and other attendees. I apologize I am not present at your candidate forum, but it most likely means that I have been held up at work. My name is Elizabeth Eldridge, although I am most commonly known as Lizzie, and I am running for my third term on the Hingham Board of Health. I initially became interested in the Board of Health when a septic system controversy arose as an article in the warrant of the Hingham Town meeting some years ago. While the health office in Hingham Town Hall handles most of the day-to-day issues of public health, the Board of Health spends a significant amount of its time deciding whether to grant variances for septic systems throughout the town. Septic systems are inherently important to the town, as they can cause unsafe situations for the townspeople and for the environment if they are not functioning correctly or appropriately situated. In addition, they are extremely important in the recharging of our town water table. Over the past 6 years, I have been privileged to be on the Board of Health, learning a great deal about our septic systems, our wells, and the nuances necessary to keep our town safe, not only for our current citizens, but for the future citizens of Hingham also. The health office in Town Hall is extremely well run, and our staff is incredibly helpful in answering questions that might arise to all members of our community. In addition, I have been impressed over the past 6 years with how sensitive the board is to citizens who are dealing with hardships in all aspects of their septic systems. I would be pleased to have your vote at our next town election. Thank you. Okay, folks, 2 more. Next up is Municipal Light Board, and I will read a statement from Tyler Harold, who is running unopposed. As a member of the Board of Directors for the Hingham Municipal Light Plant, I will make the community more welcoming by helping to ensure a fair and equitable electricity rate structure, the reliability of the Hingham electrical system, and the continued excellent record of customer service and support. That's from Tyler. The last statement comes from Bill Ramsey, who is running unopposed for Select Board. This is our last statement. I am running for re-election to the Select Board to help Hingham plan for its future. Over the past 3 years, I assisted the town as it navigated the pandemic, advanced capital improvement projects, expanded tax relief programs, and exceeded environmental goals. The town continues to maintain its AAA rating from all 3 major credit rating agencies, assuring that Hingham has access to capital markets at the lowest possible rates. As a lifelong Hingham resident, I am a product of the Hingham public school system. My wife, Adrienne, serves on the Recreation Commission, and I have 3 children enrolled at foster school. During my 3 years on the Select Board, I have worked to create a more inclusive and welcoming community. I supported the creation of the Human Rights Commission to advise the Select Board on ensuring that the town supports diversity and equity while fostering inclusion and belonging. The commission was established to identify and reject discrimination based on race, class, gender, sexuality, language, citizenship status, disability, age, and religious, non-religious identities. I also mandated that minority and women-owned businesses be supported in proposing contracting bids related to town capital projects. I have also worked to create more affordable housing throughout the town and supported the police department's creation of a civil rights officer position. I am strongly supportive of climate initiatives related to equity and inclusion and regularly attend Unity Council events. My passion for public service prompted me to run and be elected to the Hingham Recreation Commission during my first year of law school in 1998. During my over 12 years experience on the Hingham Planning and Zoning boards, I helped to write several portions of the Hingham zoning bylaw and worked to improve the town's permitting process through my service on the Zoning Permit Study Committee. My peers twice elected me to serve as the chair of the planning board, and I currently serve as the chair of the select board. My previous town service includes serving on the Hingham Educational Foundation, the Hingham July 4th Parade Committee, Friends of the Hingham Council on Aging, and Fort Hill Street Veterans Home Committee. I coach youth sports and serve as the chair for Cub Scout Pack 27. My professional experience will continue to guide me in making the many difficult decisions facing the select board. During my 20 years of practicing law, I served as a criminal defense attorney, prosecutor, and taught constitutional law on the faculty at West Point. I am a veteran of both the Afghanistan and Iraq wars. I hold a BA in political science from the University of Massachusetts, a JD from Northeastern University Law School, an MBA from Babson College, and an MSS from the Army War College. Please visit me on Facebook at Bill Ramsey, Hingham Select Board. I respectfully ask for your vote. Thank you to all of the candidates that submitted statements. We do have 2 other races featuring candidates that are running unopposed. The Board of Assessors, where the candidate is Randy Winters, and Town Moderator, where the candidate is Michael Puzo. Randy declined our invitation to submit a statement, and Michael has not responded to our emails. Therefore, that concludes our evening. Let me again extend a big thank you to all the candidates who participated in our forum this evening. We wish all of you luck in this election season, and thank you to our live stream audiences for tuning in. A recording of this forum will be available on the Hingham Unity Council Facebook and YouTube pages and the HUC website. And you can also see all of the information about the election I'm about to go over in this cool little ticker we have at the bottom of the screen. The election is Saturday, April 29th. The deadline to register to vote for this election is Friday, April 14th. And there are 3 options to vote in this election. One is vote by mail. Applications are available on the town clerk website and must be downloaded, completed, signed, and returned to the town clerk's office by Monday, April 24th. But the town clerk recommends submitting them before that. Number 2, in-person voting on Saturday, April 29th. Please note that in-person early voting is not available in this election. And lastly, absentee voting. Please call the town clerk's office at 781-741-1410 to schedule an appointment to absentee vote. Thank you for joining us, and please remember to vote on April 29th. And I should also encourage folks to attend town meeting April 24th. That's a Monday, 7 p.m. at Hingham High School. I also believe that there will be an overflow night on Tuesday the 25th if we need it, also at the high school. Lastly, please also visit the Hingham Unity Council website at hinghamunity.org for more upcoming events, including the Downtown Hingham Metco Family Scavenger Hunt on Saturday, May 6th from 1 to 3, our community book read and discussion on Celeste Ng's Our Broken Hearts on Thursday, May 18th at 7 p.m. at the Witten Room at the Hingham Public Library, and lastly, our 3rd annual Juneteenth celebration on Monday, June 19th. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening. Good night. Goodbye.